You've stepped into a protected space for Black women founders to think, build, and breathe. A dedicated space for those of us carrying brilliance and the challenges that come with it. Here, we honor your time, your growth, and your unique journey. So if you're navigating to year 5 and beyond, hey sis, you're in the right place. These conversations offer insight, relief, and honest perspective. I'm Linette Cottrell, and this is the EmpowerHER Business Podcast, where we talk mindset, money, and thriving. Well, let's get right into another great episode. Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of the EmpowerHER Business Podcast, where we support Black women entrepreneurs working through those crucial first 5 years of business so that they can thrive and survive past that period in business. And today we have with us another wonderful Black woman entrepreneur building a great business, and I'm excited to bring her to you today. We're diving into a conversation about something that we don't talk about often enough: the emotional, financial, and even spiritual weight of housing. And if you're building a business in your first 5 years, you already know stability is not an option, it's oxygen. So let me introduce you to LP. She's the founder of a great app, Houstory. This app brings transparency, safety, and truth to the rental experience. She's an advocate for fair housing and a champion for community-driven storytelling. Her mission is to empower renters with comprehensive insights into housing history, fostering trust and confidence in the rental market. So let's get into it. So LP, for those meeting you for the first time, tell us who you are behind the titles, the woman before the CEO.
Yeah, I would say the way that I describe myself is, I'm an advocate for people. I've always been in people-centered roles, whether my title was director of HR or recruiter or community advocate. I've always put people at the center of everything that I was doing. My professional career is marked by over a decade in strategic human resources roles. And this has been a dramatic pivot from working in HR to now transitioning to managing and starting up my own company.
Got it. Wonderful. Beautiful. So take us to that moment, LP, when you realized I have to build this. What problem was it that you absolutely was not going to tolerate?
So there's a couple of problems I decided I wasn't going to tolerate. And there's different moments in my career, in my life, where I was faced with something and I had to make a decision whether I was going to lean into it or whether I was going to shy away from it. And back in 2012, I was fresh out of college. I was managing a $250,000 nonprofit program for at-risk elementary youth in Brooklyn. And I was moving out of my parents' home near Long Island and trying to find a place in Brooklyn. And I was faced with all these issues where I'd talk to someone on the phone and they would love me. And the second I walked in, they're like, your credit must be bad. You're not going to be a good fit here. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm from New York. Why wouldn't I be a good fit here? Or what do you mean I walked in, my credit's bad? Like, did you run my credit? No. Like what possible factors? And it was just faced with this time and time again. And then at the same time, I was working with a student population that was deemed at risk, which meant that they were at or below the poverty line. And they had several different systemic factors that would be indicators that they would continue to be at or below the poverty line. And so one of the things I did as a nonprofit program director was try to find an alignment between how do I have them learn how to be self-sustaining. Because there's one thing where a lot of these programs come in and they're like, look at all these services we provide for you. Sort of like the savior complex. And I wanted to say, I want you guys to save yourself. So we partnered with a local community garden to have my older students plant fruits and vegetables and then take those fruits and vegetables, bring them back into the classroom. We used toaster ovens, which were like $40 or $50, and had them learn how to make their own Takis, which is the snack that they love. So it was very much farm to table, but it was them using their community resources to build something that they liked with the spices that they liked in a device that if you have to move from home to home for whatever reason, you can use a toaster oven pretty much anywhere.
Right.
And learning how to be innovative with that. And then taking those skills, that's not only met the requirement of being STEM, but also met the requirement of how do you build self-sustaining practices and getting them to think about, okay, well, this was in my community. So how do I find other things in my community I can build? And anyway, throughout my career, I kept having instances where the idea of Houstory kept coming back to me, where I would work in an organization and I start to see the breakdown in their values or the communication. And I was like, this isn't the place that I want to work. It doesn't feel great when I come in. Everyone's telling me everything's great, yet people are crying at their desk. Right? Or leadership says, these are our guiding principles. These are our guiding values. And then them going against their values when it's convenient because that person's a really great hire and we can bring them in. And it's fine if this person's harassing people, obviously never in those words.
Right, exactly.
And I remember there were several moments, when I was working in the district attorney's office, I was having this candid conversation with a vendor. We were set up, we were recruiting. And she said to me, she's like, this seems like this isn't your calling. What you're talking about is your calling. And I said, yeah, okay, thanks. And it kept happening in my career. And it was one day I was on a plane coming back from a development conference. And the messaging that they were telling me was that where I wasn't doing me any favors. And I needed to trust myself because I had so many skills and they can see it. And they were like, we would be so excited to work with you. You need to get out where you are. And that's when I thought about Houstory again. And I said, well, I don't know how to move forward. And I said, why not make it an app? Accessibility, right? And then 2024 happened where I was officially laid off from that role. And I think that was another sign. It was right before I got married. It was about 2.5 weeks before my wedding. And that's when it really hit home, when I was like, I'm leaning into myself. Like, I'm getting married. We're starting a new chapter in my life. I need to move into this. And then it was in February of 2025 that I officially filed for an LLC and finally made Houstory a business. And it was just like, there's so many points in my career where I was like pushed to do this. And anytime I said no, something happened in my career that was like, well, see, this is what happens when you don't listen to the universe.
Right. That's it right there. I love that you shared that journey with us, because a lot of us entrepreneurs, we go through those journeys, right? It's not a 1 minute instant decision. Oh, I'm going to go do this. It's usually an experience, a journey. It's something that keeps popping up, whispering to us as we go through life. And you beautifully illustrated how you just kept getting a nudge about, oh, this doesn't feel right. I don't like this. Let me put something in place to change this. I don't like this. Let me leave this situation, right? I don't like this. And then even people telling you, right? Because that's one of the things too. Other people can see it for us too. So I loved how you took us on that journey of how you really got to actually launching your app for Houstory.
I think it's really telling too, because sometimes it's also negative experience that pushed you towards it. So I was in a situation at a place I was working where it was so much bullying going on, bullying from the top throughout their entire organization. And the biggest piece of it was this rumor that I was going to start my own consulting firm. And when the rumor got to me, I said, what? I was like, I'm in school. I'm planning a wedding. What do you mean I'm starting an HR consulting firm? And it was funny because it was based on these stereotypes that I feel like often if you're part of several marginalized identities, especially myself, I'm a Black woman with Caribbean roots, I'm queer. And oftentimes when they hear all these differentiators, they want to put you in a box. And so they just made all these assumptions about me. And then they would start these rumors. And I'd have executives come to me and be like, so you want to start your own HR consulting business? And they would say it to me as if they were scared. Like, I was like, I don't understand why this is happening. And I kept getting it. And I was like, well, clearly, besides the bullying, which is like a toxic culture, but there was an element to what they were saying that I was like, if you're seeing this, someone that doesn't respect me, right, as an individual, and they just see me as a walking stereotype, if they're telling me these things, there must be something, because even the ops see it. Even they see it. And so I think that I'm not necessarily like a spiritual person, but there are moments where there's just like the universe is going to tell you whether you want to hear it or not. It's going to tell you, your friends are going to tell you, your family's going to tell you, the people that don't like you or respect you are going to see it and they're going to tell you, and everybody's going to tell you until you wake up and realize.
Yes, I like to say, I heard Oprah say one time, you get whispers and it gets louder and louder and louder until you can't help but pay attention to it, right? Wonderful. So we know that housing is one of the biggest stability markers for new entrepreneurs, especially. How does Houstory shift the power back to renters? Yeah.
So I tell people I have a lot of hot takes. That's like the Gen Z fun way of saying controversial topic. But when I tell people my hot takes are, they're like, LP, that's not really a hot take. That's just a normal observation for somebody that's not sipping the Kool-Aid,
Right.
And one of my observations that I made is that lack of information leads to control. Lack of information leads to destruction. Lack of information is a tool of the larger, whatever you want to call it, patriarchy, white supremacy, some sort of overarching belief that somebody else needs to control an entire group of people. And when I'm looking at my history, my legacy, my ancestors, and finding out when they find out information, how far they took it and how far they went, I noticed that there's knowledge and power. So my platform, it's currently in the design phase, and we plan on launching our beta sometime late January. Once it's out, the goal is really to get people engaged with it and for them to understand that all the resources are there. We're bringing all that information in a centralized way that makes it easy to understand, especially if you're emotionally dysregulated, because you're going through not only working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, but dealing with any sort of housing issue or trying to find housing. The goal is to have Houstory be a tool, to be really like an ally to folks, to give them the information they need to make informed decisions. So whereas if you go down the rabbit hole in Google or Reddit, you're not going to be able to make an informed decision, whereas Houstory is going to bring all that context to the forefront. So that way you can feel more confident about saying yes or no, or at least give you some tools to negotiate, with your situation.
Got it. So how would Houstory be different? Because I think that's very important for people to know, oh, I can just Google about this certain place and get the information I need, or like you said, Reddit, or, just search on the internet and find out about this place. How would Houstory be different?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing with Houstory is, so if you imagine this, right? Like, so the renters I talked to are renting in the DMV area, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia, particularly Baltimore, and the NYC area, which is like New York City and like neighboring New Jersey and Connecticut. The biggest thing they say is that they asked me that, and I asked them, okay, have you done that? And they said, yes. Did you get the information you need? They say no. Why? It's not succinct, right? It's not succinct. And the decision, especially in New York, when you have to there's 50 other people apply for this place. Right. You're in that space. Do you really have the tool to sit there and Google for 5 hours when you got a job to go to, when you have kids to feed, when you have to even take time for yourself? The goal is Houstory is just bringing all that information to you, including stuff that comes from Google and working alongside these different tools to filter out the nonsense that you don't need to know. The goal is to have verified reviews on the app and not just AI bots being like, this place is great,
right?
50 times that you have to filter through like Google.
Right.
It's being designed to really pull the information that people need to know. What's the rent price? What is it listed as? I've rented a place before that I saw 3 or 4 different price ranges that it was listed as. And it's like, is it $1,900 a month? Is it $2,200 a month? Because I'm telling you that $300
makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference. Another thing that you don't find out is what's the what cable am I supposed to get? Because there's certain areas you can only get certain cable. And what if what if you have preferences? Then it's like, does my phone work in this neighborhood? Does my phone work in that neighborhood? Or what I find most important, I want to know about the history of the place. This apartment looks great. This neighborhood looks great, but is it safe for me to walk around? What is the cultural history or heritage here? And then the most important thing, when we think about the impacts of gentrification, how can I contribute to this community in a meaningful way? What local mom and pop shops are here do I need to support? Or should I be made aware of? Because I'd rather my dollar stay in this neighborhood, in this community, than for me to have another box chain move in and further displace the population, especially the small business owners in a particular area.
Got it. That's remarkable. So what you offer with your app is more of you offer information about the community.
Yes.
Plus you offer the detailed information that the individual really wants to know. Like I really want to know, like you said, what cable is there in this area? I really want to know if I'm moving into this area and I don't have a lot of time to make a decision because the availability is limited, where can I go to get the most information that really matters to me and I don't have to spend hours getting it, right?
Absolutely. That is the biggest thing.
Yeah, you answer a lot of key questions that I think most people looking for housing feel like they can't find the answer to it, right? They think, okay, I can find out the size of this place, the location, how close it is to where I work, but that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really not succinct in that way. The crazy thing is throughout my career, I also don't want to say that I think that it's good that I'm doing Houstory now, and that if I did it 10 years ago, it probably wouldn't have been built with as much intentionality, because you learn things. I mean, just life experience. Life teaches you, and you have to take those lessons and apply them. When I was working at the DA's office, and I was always that person that asks a lot of questions. I'm always curious. I found out later it's because I have ADHD, which is the driving force behind a lot of it. But I would find out when I worked at the district attorney's office that there's something called the complaint room, where there's any sort of complaints come in before they lead to the court system. And I noticed that certain names kept popping up, and I was like, well, that's interesting that I see this company being pop up here as a complaint, but where is that information anywhere else? And the response that I would get from people is that, well, this is open so people can find it. And I was like, well, how would they know to look there? How would they know to look here? Because if I ask more neurotypical people, I'm like, oh, are you going to search the Bronx County complaint room cases that come in, or any of the sort of open cases? Like, most people would say no, unless they're doing a background check on hiring somebody, or looking up information before they agree to date some guy, right? So but they typically don't look at that stuff, or housing, to see how names keep getting popped up. And that's something that people don't realize, is that, or even we've had a couple of disasters hit New York City and Baltimore. People don't look at the FEMA data that comes in, or any of the environmental data that comes in that could affect it. If you find out that the area that you have is at risk of flooding, and you move in, then you find out that there's mold there, and it's like, why is it mold? Because there's more moisture in the area, and you have kids that have asthma. So there's so many different factors, but they're in 1,000,001 different places. And it's like, how do you bring that together?
I love that. So you, with your Houstory app, you're bringing all those elements together, so you're a one-stop place that a prospective renter can go to and ask all these questions. That's beautiful. So I'm sure you've heard a lot of renter stories, and I'm sure you've had your own too. But which one sits with you? Which one made you think this is a big issue?
So the stories all have similar themes, and a lot of them, and the thread between it hits on privilege a lot of times. But I would say the story that hit the hardest, that opened my eyes, was really an experience that I had. And I didn't fully understand my experience, I think, until recently, when I started looking back through my emails, through my photos, and researching my own story to tell people exactly what happened to me, that I realized how bad it was.
Yeah.
Because when you're going through it, sometimes you don't fully grasp it.
Right.
And so my own story was, as I was looking for a place in Brooklyn, I kept hitting the wall with these people that, they'd love me on the phone, walk in, they didn't want to rent to me, that they had questions about, my ability to pay rent all of a sudden as soon as they saw my face. Or I'd walk in, they said it's a private 1-bedroom, and it's just a couch with a curtain, and I can't use the front door for $900 a month. And I'm like, okay, first of all, and you're in the middle of nowhere? Excuse me, no thank you.
Right.
I got fed up, and so I walked into a realty office, and I said, look, this is my budget, this is what I'm looking for. So I told them my budget's $1,200 a month, private 1-bedroom, looking in Brooklyn. And the real estate person I was working with was like, great, I have a place for you. She showed it to me, and I said, it wasn't great. And I was like, fine, this works. She said, I need first security and broker fee. So I go empty my savings. Remember, I'm 22 years old. I don't have money. So I empty my savings, what I got. And I give her the money. I give her the cash. hand it over to her.
Cash.
And then the second I handed it to her, she says, that place is no longer available. Oh, it gets better. Then she says, but I have another place. It was $50 more a month, different part of the neighborhood, different neighborhood. I go there feeling like, well, I lost my money. So if I don't do this, she could take my money. And then I'm, I don't know where to go.
Right.
I said, yes, move in. And then almost immediately, my eccentric neighbor tells me, oh, the last tenant here was a drug dealer. That's why your door doesn't, like, you can actually open your door even if you lock it from the inside. You can open it from the outside. I was like, oh, because the police kicked it in because they're a drug dealer. I can't lock the security gate on my first floor apartment that's right next to an alley from the inside. The smoke detector is actually missing. The tiles by the stove were peel and stick tiles that were put on, and some of them caught fire, so they took it off. So it was like the original tile with the peel and stick tile on there. Then they were the roaches. And I expected roaches because that comes with living in an apartment sometimes, but I didn't expect as many roaches. I wasn't used to living like that. And then was the bed bugs. And then when they came in to take care of the bed bugs, then I found out there were also ticks in the apartment.
Oh, no.
I didn't realize in Brooklyn, New York that there were ticks, but I was told by the super himself that there were ticks. Then the super came in to make some maintenance repairs, and he showed me his head. There was a giant lump on his head, and he's like, yeah, I have cancer. And then he passed away a couple of weeks after that. And then I find out from his widow that they were trying to evict his widow and his kids almost immediately. And so I eventually had to leave their apartment because I didn't feel safe coming back there. But just that story itself was just like a recipe for like problem after problem after problem, as if I didn't have other life things going on.
Right. That by itself is enough to stress you out. And that's coming home, right?
That's coming home.
That's your home. You can't get home. There's no peace in coming home. So,
None.
Oh my goodness.
None. And it was like I never lived in a space where there were so many issues.
Right.
I've also I never even understood the term gaslighting really until like I would send them pictures of stuff and they would send an email. I don't see anything wrong with here. And I was just like, are you serious? Or they tell me you brought the bed bugs. And I was like, I came from my family home where my mom did not play. We're only allowed to eat in the kitchen. That's it. Like, and we cleaned up every night. No, nothing in the sink, nothing there at all. We never had any sort of, anything. And then be blamed for these things. And I was like, how can I bring this stuff here?
Right.
When I have neighbors telling me that they've always had a roach problem or they had history of bed bugs in the building.
Right.
It was just absolutely awful.
So to your point, that is such a real story. And I love that you add the gaslighting element to it, because that happens a lot too. Whenever you file a complaint about something, it's very easily turned around to, oh no, the problem is you. No, this is not, you kind of, am I crazy or what? But to your point, for every issue you just described, a person using your app will be able to find someone who put those details in there about this place, right? So if those details were in place when you were offered this apartment, and you could go there and see someone already put, the door's been kicked in, they got roaches, their bed, all these issues, you would be more aware of, okay, that's not where I want to live. So from your own experience, I really get it. You want to empower other renters so that they don't have to go through that same experience before they realize, I don't want to live here. Right.
Absolutely. And then also finding out about how quickly this like, it's almost a business. And so like through my research, I find out that there's a business in evictions. There's a business in not taking care of different things. And people don't realize it, where like this particular apartment, like even still now, this unit is still listed almost every single year it's available. So that means like if you're signing a year lease with people, like there's something missing there. And you find out that it's a business that some companies will purposely do things like that to move forward in the eviction process, because it's actually a business. They get a lot, right? Depending on how fast they go through the process. And it's a lot of them are very sneaky this way. And it's just like finding that out. And then another piece is like, we don't really know the true cost, because remember, I mentioned to you, my limit was $1,200 a month, but they rented to me for $1,250. And then you have the fees that you have to pay this place. Then you have the gas. Then you have the electric. Right. Then you have to think about transportation, because this was further away. Transportation. So there was all these complex costs associated with this. Then you have the cost of, what people don't understand about bed bugs, and they don't understand this, they can lay dormant for months. And so they can be in books. Because we know about couches and beds. They can be in books. They can be in electronics. They can be in furniture. They can be in the floorboards. And that messes with you. I think for years after I rented, anytime I felt anything on my arm, I was like, is that
right?
Is that a bed bug? And it's actually the worst in the summertime, because I'm allergic to bug bites. So if I get bit by a mosquito, and if it's at night and I wake up and I see a lump, and I'm like, please don't be a bed bug.
Traumatized. It's a traumatizing experience.
100%. And I know that there are people that experience way worse than me, way worse than me. And when I'm thinking about everything that's happening politically now, I don't want to necessarily get into the nuances of that. But one thing that I'm seeing is that, especially for people that are at or below the poverty line, or that are undocumented, or maybe English is a second or third or fourth language, and culturally there is a sort of people are up against them because they come from a different cultural background than they do, and they're trying to navigate housing and realizing how easy it is to take advantage of people. Here I was, a native New Yorker, I should have been in a better position to be able to navigate this, but I was 22, 23, young, not really knowing the laws or the legal landscape. But I can only imagine if I was a single mom. I can only imagine if I was like, undocumented, trying to navigate all these things and then having all these housing issues. It is really difficult.
It is. So I love that your app really addresses all the pain points of a renter, like everything they could possibly be dealing with. You give them a resource to help to address those pain points, right? So they don't have to go through that experience and feel alone. So like, okay, now I'm stuck with this. Because housing, being able to come home to peace, is really big. It's really big for mental wellness. It's really big for if you're trying to do anything outside of just go work a job and come back home, right? You need that peace of mind. And I think it's a fundamental thing that everyone deserves to have. Right?
It is. It should be a right that we have right to housing. But, it's interesting. I'm having conversations with folks that live in the UK, that live in Germany. And I made a comment about housing and they're like, well, the state manages that, so I don't really worry too much about it. And I'm just like, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? Because when the state or the city manages it here, it's very different. It's almost like they treat people like criminals in the housing, where you have someone coming every couple of months to check up on you and invade your space and invade your privacy and treat you like a criminal when you're just trying to afford to live and raise a family, or just even if you don't have kids, it's just such a difficult system to navigate. And I wonder if that is part of the design to control people. That is the question that we need to answer. Is that part of the design to make people so emotionally dysregulated that you won't have time or you won't recognize when other things are being changed?
Right. That's a great point. I love you talked about emotional regulation. That's really big, and that's something I don't think we talk about enough either. Because usually we see it as just our own emotional issue, right? But emotional regulation is very real.
It is.
So LP, when pressures arise, like the uncertainty of fundraising or product challenges, what practices do you use to help reconnect you to yourself, to your core?
My wife keeps trying to get me to meditate, and that's not very great, but I've been taking something simple like taking daily walks, which forces me to leave my office and forces me to walk and think. And, that's one thing that I do just to really center myself. And I don't know if it's meditation so much, but it's meditative related because it forces me to go out in nature. Mm-hmm. And then another thing that I do that's really big was trust my skills that have got me here. I mentioned to you, when I was program director, partnering with the local community garden wasn't on the blueprint for my job. It was get the job done. And I needed to be innovative and creative. And so I lean onto that. I was like, what are my skills? I'm innovative. I'm creative. I'm not afraid to take risks. I'm not afraid to get no's. I used to do sales, and I quickly became one of the top salespersons on the campaign consistently because I wasn't afraid to go up and say, cool, that guy before you said no, but you might say yes, and I'm going to have that conversation. And being scrappy. And I think I was applied for a program for Houstory, and I got denied. And then I reached back out to them about 5 or 6 months after that to their email where they denied me. And I detailed their feedback. I detailed everything that I've done since the last conversation and told them I want them to reconsider. And they reached out to me. We had a call, and they're like, no one's ever done that before, where they've responded to a rejection email with the feedback applied. And of course, we're going to accept you now. And it was just me being persistent and just pushing back and then using my skills and just saying there has to be a way. And I know that this is going to be a good thing, and to just be creative about how I'm going to move forward. And another piece that people don't think about, it's okay to have, they call them crash outs. It's okay to have a moment or two where you panic and you cry, and that happens. Let yourself feel your feelings and then get back to it.
Got it. Very good advice. So if a woman listening now feels called to solve a big systematic problem like you're doing, what inner shift does she need to begin making right now? What would you suggest she focus on?
I would say I would focus on the why. So you see a problem and then focus on why do you want to fix it? What about you makes you the right person to fix it? And also think about, when you think about your why, is it to make money? Because if that's the answer, you might struggle a lot with getting an end result. So if your goal is to make money, that might not be the best framework, because there's going to be times where you lose money. And if you're just about making the money and thinking about it from that perspective, you might not follow through. So if your why is, I see this problem and I deeply care about it, and I have a personal story that attaches to this, and I care so much about it, you're going to invest so much more time, energy, effort into it to make it happen, that if you lose money, that's not going to deter you off of the path. Because you're going to lose money, you're going to lose friends, you're going to lose, you're going to lose things. That happens. And that is the universe way of saying these things you didn't really need, right? You need to lose all this stuff, because if you're really pouring yourself into it, asking the right questions, having a strong why, then everything else will fall into place eventually. And it takes, nothing great was just built
overnight.
Really quickly. Exactly. Right. So you've probably seen this throughout your career too, of businesses being built and getting really successful, or people getting really successful really soon, and almost always it crumbles, right? You see it.
Yes, I've seen it. Yes.
You see it so many times. And so if you really care about something, it's going to take sacrifice. You're going to cry, and that's okay. Don't do it for the money, do it for the social impact. and lean onto your strengths. And also, and this is the biggest thing, and this is also something that I feel like is a sign of high intelligence, is realize the limit of like what you're capable of doing. If you're not capable of doing something, recognize that and address it, talk about it. Don't say I'm great at everything. No, you're not. And it's okay. Recognize the limit, recognize where you need to upskill, look to your own community. There are so many resources out there, and don't be afraid to ask. And I say this, and I say this to my students, and I say this all the time: do it messy, do it scared, but just do it.
Very, very important. Very important. What resources have you found most helpful to you in your entrepreneur journey?
I found, for me, in building this, my community, that has been the biggest resource for me. Leaning into my community, and not for like fundraising or anything of that, but people will tell you so much and will help you so much in ways that you can't even begin to explain. And the funny thing is, it didn't happen with Houstory. I started leaning into my community with Houstory after I got married. It was, so planning my wedding was such a stressful time, because not only was I dealing with like work stuff, but I was also like planning a wedding that I never planned before as a child, because I never could picture myself marrying a woman, because I grew up with, that wasn't really something that was an option for me. Right. And so when I was planning the wedding, it was so stressful, but there were so many people that showed up in meaningful ways, in ways I didn't expect. And that I translated to Houstory, because it's like, people are going to help you in ways that you don't. You just need to accept it, accept the help. And then there are going to be people that are going to show up or not show up for you, people that expect to, and you have to learn how to drop them. And I don't know if this is Capricorn energy or not, maybe, but I am so quick to drop. I notice when there's like bad juju or somebody that's like negative about what I'm doing, I'm so quick to drop that. We don't need that. But people are going to show up for you in ways, and you need to accept it. And it might not be the way that you expect, and that's okay.
I love that. So accept how they show up and accept how they don't show up, right?
Exactly.
Because either way, they're telling you who they are and what they're here to either pour into you or not pour into you. So a lot of times we end up trying to hold on to people who we should be letting go of. Like they're telling us, you should let me go. But we're saying, no, but I've known you for so long, and we've been, but at this point, it's time to let it go. So I love that you say you have a problem with that. You're like, bye. I get the message. See you later. And when a lot of us are like, we're trying to figure out a way to still hold on until something bigger happens, and then we finally get the message. So accept the help as it shows up. Release people when they should be released.
Absolutely. I think so there's we talk a little bit about the universe telling you certain things, and the universe is going to tell you, and it's going to get the whisper's going to get louder and louder and louder to just screaming.
Got you. So looking at your journey from the beginning to now, to all the things you went through when you shared your journey at the very beginning of our conversation, what would you say has been your biggest challenge, and what has changed about you from that time to now?
I lost a piece of myself. I was in a coaching conversation where I was talking to somebody, and they had said something, and I laughed, and they're like, "Oh, you laughed because it's funny I said that." And I was like, "No, I laughed because that used to be me." And I lost her. I lost her because I was focused on making myself small, on doing the safe route. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had conversation with people saying like, just let them say that, they're older, they could do that, whatever. They're going to be disrespectful. Just keep the peace. Don't argue with this person for this reason, or just let this person have this thing. They're not doing well. Like, give them the win. And I was like, so you want me to like relent and still exist in this space? And I lost that. So for me, it was finding her again, finding the fiery version of LP, the one that would talk to, and sell and work when I was in sales, like just not being afraid to go talk to somebody. And the person that would just go up to someone and have a conversation. And the person that would just sit down and be like, you know what, I have an idea, let's move forward with it, even if it's messy or sloppy. And I lost her from working in an environment where they were, not willing to be, like, work with me or see me, or they were just so focused on control and manipulation. And so it was nice that I was able to work in an environment, that I'm now creating an environment where I'm going back to that fiery version of myself and redefining how I want to show up in the world, and tapping into my younger self. I know sometimes people say, when you grow up, you get more mature. Sometimes some of the things that we see, and we see this in young kids all the time, there'll be an element in them that you're like, oh man, I hope they don't lose it. I hope they keep that element. And that's what I found. It was like, let me go back to the element and let me bring that back in.
Got it.
Almost the audacity to show up as myself and not him.
Got it. So it's opposed to shrinking in certain environments, for those environments, you were able to recapture that freedom of being just you, your authentic self, and being what you represent, and being true to yourself. I think that's really big, because a lot of times the things that we need to be successful are attracted to us because of who we really are, right? Not who we shrink to be. So a lot of times when we're struggling with certain things, and why is this not working out? Because it needs you to show up as your real self. And your real self, that real big light you got inside of you, that true energy that is yours, it's going to attract all those right things that are out there just waiting for that light to come out. So kudos to you for that. I love that. So as we close up today, I would love to give you the opportunity to share anything that's on your mind and heart that maybe I didn't ask you the question for, but it's something that you really want to make sure that our audience here today, this is your opportunity the floor is open to you to share that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I was sitting in the one of the classes I had for a master's program, and the TA had asked, design the place you want to work, design your ideal boss. And I went up to him and I said, how dare you? He got real scared. He was like, because, angry Black woman. By the way, anyone that knows me knows that I'm never angry. I'm just like always in deep thought and or whatever. And I said, how dare you assume I want a boss? And he was like, interesting. And I was like, yeah. I said, why do we have to have a place where there's like this weird structure? Because it feels very much like parent to kid relationship.
Yes.
And I've worked in places so I'm 35, about to be 36. Mm-hmm. And apparently I'm told all the time I look young. And I think it's really interesting because this is what 35, 36 looks like where I'm from in New York. And I tell people, if they say I look really young, I'm like, it must be the water in New York, because why are you looking so like, this is what we look like. What's wrong with the water down where we were? And then the amount of disrespect that I would get because people thought I was like a college student, like an undergrad college student. And I was like, I don't know. Like, and they're like, one day you're going to love that. And I was like, really though? To be treated like a child my whole career, I'm going to love that. It's like so interesting. So, for me, it was just like, I just thought that was
the
like
concept of, describe your best boss, your dream boss. And you're like, why should I need a boss?
Like,
it is like a parent-child, you have to ask permission to take time off. You have to ask permission. You have to go before them to get merits on, how am I acting? How
am I going to grow?
Yeah.
How am I going to grow? Because you're telling me, oh, you have to do this one and then you move to this one. And I'm like, I'm going to go somewhere else. Right. And I do that. And I have a lot of audacity. Like, if I don't like what's going on, I will leave. Like, why? And people are just not, they're like, oh, she just left. And I'm like, yeah, because you weren't it. So bye, no explanation needed. And I wanted to design a workplace where, we're able to grow authentically into ourselves and not have that. And so I had my first all hands this past week with my team. We have a team of 10 now. It's so cool. And I told them that the model that we're following, something called the teal model, we're trying to follow closely aligned to that. And I said, what means is that like for everybody that I have on the team, they're consulting in a different area where they're the expert. And I said, that means you get to make the decision. I'm asking you for help and you're an expert in this area. That means you get to make the call. Why would you ask me? You would only ask me for alignment to mission and values. But if you're like, we need to move forward for this reason, baby, I'm going to trust you. And I want to design a workplace where that is the standard, where we hire people that know what they're doing and getting out of their way.
Let them do what they know.
Let them do what they know. And the only type of sort of guidance would come through mentorship. And I want to build a place of mentorship. So it's not structured like most of the companies we see. And you know what? We've seen this teal model be successful in so many different organizations. And I really like it. And that's what I want to do. And I think that people that know what they're doing, the experts, really gravitate towards that. And that's the type of workplace that I want to have. So I don't even call myself a CEO. I call myself managing director intentionally. And maybe that might change in the future. But the reason I call that is that I am managing the different aspects and making sure the team has what they need. But I'm just directing people to where they need to go, but I'm moving out of their way. Right? The decision-making process is, if you are the expert in the area, you're leading that decision-making process.
So they are empowered.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, LP. We appreciate you sharing that great information with our audience today, being a part of the Empower Her Business Podcast. Thank you for coming here and sharing your journey. And we're looking forward to the bright future of Houstory and that app to help renters with more stability and more answers before they step into spaces that they're going to live in and call home. So thank you for being a part of this.
Yes, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. So now we're going to go to our After the Podcast exclusive questions for LP. The first one is, what's something you overcame in silence while building Houstory that you've never shared publicly?
Something that I dealt with. So I mentioned to people that I was laid off about 2.5 weeks before my wedding. That was an adjustment. How to manage my own time day to day. And trying to figure out what works best for me. That took a long time for me to understand how to do that.
Yes.
And I can tell my team right now, like my hours are 11 a.m. to 4:30, then 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. And I said, I'm flexible with that. Like if we have a project or something, I'm like willing to, but generally those are the times that I go on and off. Those are, and the 11 a.m. to 4:30, that's like on camera time. The 7 a.m. to 2 a.m., that's like response time.
Right.
And I said that I didn't want to start work before 11. And I know people make fun of people. They're like, oh, you're waking up late. I still get it from my parents where they're like, you want a kid? You're going to have a kid? Oh, you got to get up early. And I'm like, guess what? I don't have a kid, so I don't have to get up early. Why do I got to get up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday? What are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing? No, I'm not going to get up before 10. I like sleeping in. I also like staying up late. And being neurodivergent, having ADHD, it actually works better for me to have that schedule. I get energized at night. I had a couple of sprints a couple of nights ago where I stayed up to 6 a.m. coding. And I'm not a coder, by the way. I taught myself. So teaching myself how to code. And I built something for my team that when they saw it, they were really amazed about the work that I did. And I said, I stayed up to 6 a.m. figuring this thing out because I want to work for me. So I think just finding my schedule and trusting like what works best for me, that was something that I worked on. That was hardest.
Yeah.
That was so hard. Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the nuances. When I talk to entrepreneurs, I always say one of the nuances and the challenges that we're not aware of when we go into a full-time entrepreneurship is that we don't have to stick to that 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. schedule. We get to create exactly what you're saying. We get to figure out, when do I work the best? Like, when do I have the most energy? When am I the most creative? And if it's not early in the morning, if it's late at night, then that's when we should be doing our work, right? So I love that you discovered that. And it does take time to figure that out, because one is that we have all those messages, right, that says you should be up at a certain time or you're just lazy, right? So we have to work through that personally with ourselves. And two, because we've never had the opportunity to figure this out. So it's not something that we know because we never worked in these particular schedules. So we have to actually do it to find out, oh, this feels good. Oh, I'm still wide awake. I can go for a couple more hours, and it's after midnight, but I have all this energy. So it's giving ourselves permission to do things differently as entrepreneurs. And there's no playbook for that, right? We just have to be willing to embrace that. So I love that you shared that. That's remarkable.
I would say there's another piece of that too. So I was doing this when my master's was mostly online. I realized that sitting down at a computer trying to type something, I would like blank screen. But what really helped me, and still I do this today, I voice texted most of my essays and then went back to edit it. And then I, even now when I'm walking, I voice text myself documents, come back and edit it, because it's so much easier to just say the thing.
Right. Yeah.
And learn. And by the way, that's an accessibility tool, the voice texting. So just using that.
Yeah.
So that was a big piece, just thinking about who says I have to sit down and type things.
Yeah.
Who says that?
Yeah. I do the same thing. I love that too. Because sometimes when I sit down and type, I'm like, I can't, this is like, I can say it more fluid than I can type it. So then I just turn on the microphone and I speak it. And like you say, go back and edit it. So that's a great tool, audience. If you're getting stuck when you sit at the computer, or if you're just tired of sitting there typing things out and it feels slower to you, think about turning on your microphone and just speaking it into your phone, and then coming back and editing it later. Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. So if there was anyone from any time in history that you could take to dinner and just pick their brain, who would you choose and why?
I'm a fan of not meeting your heroes because reality sits in, right? But let me think about this. So I am naturally a very silly person. I think when I'm like my most healthy version, I'm very silly. I'm very like jokey, and I tell a lot of jokes, and I'm very like, that's just like who I am naturally. And I love that energy. I think I would probably want to sit down with like Shel Silverstein, who is the poet of like Where the Sidewalk Ends, and he's very silly in his poetry. I think sitting down with him would be really interesting to ask him about like, why do you choose to be silly? I think Robin Williams would be another one. Lean into the silliness.
Right.
And I think like, I don't think anybody else. And then I guess for a personal standpoint, I don't know how this would go, because I also don't know how my ancestors would receive me. But I'd want to sit down. We traced our lineage back to a woman named Susie, and she was an enslaved woman. And I would want to meet with her and ask her, did you ever envision a future? Did you ever envision a future of yourself where you weren't enslaved? And what were your dreams? And did your dreams ever include having descendants that were like caring and empathetic, and then successful in different areas and tackling issues that are still reminiscent of the time that she's in? That those themes don't end. I probably would want to sit down with her and ask her those questions. So that would be something I would want to do. And I would also tell her like, hey, the journey that you're going through, I really know nothing of, because they don't teach us exactly what it was like. They say, oh, we picked cotton, but that actually wasn't the biggest farms. People don't realize about the farms where they used to breed people, or everything else that went with slavery that was far more horrendous, that I'm now learning, even as somebody with a degree in Africana studies. I didn't even know that. Even if I have a fancy degree that says African Latino studies, I still don't know what happened. And I'd want to talk to her about what happened and what dreams does she have for herself, for her family, for her children, and what she thinks about where we are now, because I'd be really curious about that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right, that wraps up our questions.
Awesome.
You've been listening to the Empower Her Business Podcast. And before you go, I want to thank you for being here. If this episode supported you, please pay it forward. You can do that by hitting the follow button, rating us 5 stars, leaving a comment, and sharing us with others. This is how we ensure the podcast reaches more sisters in business. Until next time, I wish you the very best of joy, health, and wealth. Be well.